Kemudian selamat datang Dr. Takdir Ali Mukti dari Dekan Visipol UMY. Selamat datang Dr. Andes Eko Sumardi dari Ketua BP Paudikmas Yogyakarta. Tak lupa pula ibu kita yang sangat cantik jelita, Ibu Zamzami Ulwiati, Ketua Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Selamat siang semuanya.
Selamat siang. Ada jelitanya itu loh yang bikin marak geli malahan. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Bersama-sama saya di siang hari ini, Lina Mariana bersama Ibu Ida Laili dari Kulon Progo. Mana Bu Ida? Sudah bergabung di ruang Zoom? Akan membersamai teman-teman di siang hari ini di pra-acara webinar Team Building and Leadership. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Acara webinar ini terselenggara atas kerjasama Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi UMY bersama Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Teman-teman yang luar biasa, di siang hari ini kita akan bersama-sama mengikuti webinar Team Building and Leadership dengan pembicara Dr. Sen Rafiq dari National University of Modern Language, Islamabad dari Pakistan. Alhamdulillah teman-teman, di siang hari ini kita akan mengikuti webinar internasional yang nanti akan dipaparkan dengan bahasa Inggris. Semoga nanti teman-teman bisa mengikuti, karena nanti juga akan disampaikan dengan pelan-pelan. Kemudian nanti boleh teman-teman mengajukan pertanyaan, kemudian tanggapan boleh memakai bahasa Indonesia saja, nggak usah pakai bahasa Inggris gitu ya teman-teman sekalian. Ini sudah bertambah di 258. Semoga nanti semakin siang semakin banyak yang bergabung. Masih kita tunggu teman-teman. Halo, mana ini yang dari Gunung Kidul? Coba Gunung Kidul.
Hadir, Bu.
Hadir, oke.
Hadir, Bu. Hadir, Bu Rina dari Gunung Kidul.
Gunung Kidul pertama Bu Ulwi nih. Bu Ulwi nanti dapat hadiah door prize apa nih dari Gunung Kidul?
Wah, apa ya?
Hadir Gunung Kidul.
Yang gede, Bu Lina.
Oke, yang gede.
Yang gede, Bu Lina.
Oke, baik.
Ya.
Yang jauh, yang di atas sana, di Kulon Progo. Coba nih, kalah enggak dengan Gunung Kidul yang terjauh ini? Kulon Progo. Mana Kulon Progo suaranya?
Hadir.
Hadir, Bu. Alhamdulillah, Kulon Progo sudah hadir 4.000 ya ini. Baik, kami sapa lagi dari Bantul. Apakah sudah ada yang hadir dari Bantul?
Sudah, saya.
Sudah, alhamdulillah.
Sudah.
Oh, Bu Dwi. Yang Bu Dwi.
Yes, siap ini.
Dereng buka videonya ya. Oh, sudah.
Oh, belum. Mau ganti background dulu.
Oh, nggih, Bu Dwi. Terima kasih.
Ya.
Bu Dwi sehat?
Amin, sehat, Mbak.
Ya, kemarin baru insiden ya. Ya, terima kasih Bu Dwi. Mana sekarang dari Sleman? Sleman mana ya Sleman?
Hadir.
Alhamdulillah ini Bu Minang yang perbatasan Kulon Progo sudah hadir ini. Hadir. Terima kasih. Dari kota mana kota?
Hadir,
Apakah dari kota sudah hadir?
Hadir.
Dari kota sudah 5.000 yang hadir, Bu Ulwi.
Amin, ayo teman-temannya masuk.
Matiin dulu suaranya.
Ya, terima kasih. Bu Ida Laili, apakah sudah bergabung, Bu Ida?
Halo Mbak, di sini menyimak.
Oke, Bu Ida ini sudah bergabung. Bu Ida ini dari Kulon Progo, teman-teman. Kulon Progo sudah membawa berapa ribu pasukan, Bu?
Banyak ini.
Banyak. Baik, teman-teman sekalian, apakah Bu Sabatina sudah masuk ke ruang Zoom yang akan memandu acara pembukaan di siang hari ini. Bu Sabatina, halo.
Halo, saya terdengar tidak ya, Bu Lina ya?
Oh, terdengar, tapi masih kurang sip. Belum. Videonya belum dibuka ya, Bu Saba? Videonya belum?
Laptop yang kecil.
Bu Sabatina sudah ini belum? Sudah dibuka videonya?
Masa mau latihan nge-step kok, masuk raiso nge-step dulu.
Ya, sambil berproses nih Bu Lina, silakan disampaikan.
ya.
Ini program apa toh ini Bu Lina ya? Ini kegiatan
Baik.
hari ini apa ya?
Baik, Bu Maya, di siang hari ini adalah program Team Building and Leadership untuk teman-teman dari Himpaudi. Untuk Himpaudi juga bahwa di siang hari ini kita akan dibersamai dengan Dr. Zen. Bu Maya, monggo Bu Maya, ini apa namanya? Programnya dari mana Bu Maya? Dari UMY ya. Monggo dari ilmu komunikasi ya Bu Maya. Monggo Bu Maya.
Oke, ya. Terima kasih ya. Ini kita sapa-sapa dulu, tadi sudah disapa luar biasa teman-teman. Terima kasih atas partisipasi. Ini kita support luar biasa. Agenda pada siang hari ini merupakan kerjasama Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta dengan Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi UMY pada program Pengabdian Masyarakat. Dan ini luar biasa. Ada ini yang kedua kalinya Bu Lina, ini webinar yang kedua, yang pada tanggal 12 kita sudah mengagendakan tema tentang komunikasi organisasi. Dan alhamdulillah ini menjadi lanjutan yang webinar yang kedua. Ini kita menghadirkan beliau Dr. Zen dari Islamabad University. Jadi nanti in English Bu Lina.
Baik, nanti saya juga akan belajar dulu Bu, buka kamus ya.
Oke,
dan
in
menurut
English.
infonya kita akan mendapatkan sertifikat loh teman-teman nanti ya, di dua acara ini kita akan mendapatkan sertifikat. Jangan ini ya, jangan galau. Nanti akan dikirim via Gmail atau Google Drive nanti sehari setelah acara dilaksanakan gitu ya. Nanti monggo Bu Maya.
Ya, mohon nanti dari tim panitia juga nanti akan share link Google Form untuk daftar hadir, karena nanti sertifikat nanti akan terinclude dengan daftar hadir. Jadi mohon nanti bisa mengisi ya, nanti link daftar hadir nanti akan di-share di chat. Jadi cukup dengan mengisi di link Google Form itu. Dan nanti kalau sekiranya nanti untuk daftar hadir yang itu include dengan sertifikat kok ada kesulitan, jangan khawatir, nanti pasca webinar ini masih tetap akan ada tindak lanjutnya, nanti tetap akan sampaikan Google Drive yang berkait dengan sertifikat ya. Dan ini sertifikatnya internasional loh, karena ini adalah kita menghadirkan dari narasumber dari luar negeri, dari Islamabad University. Dan jangan khawatir, nanti teman-teman tidak perlu ragu untuk bertanya, karena tidak harus ditranslatekan dengan bahasa Inggris ya. Boleh bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Jawa sidik-sidik juga tak apalah gitu ya. Jadi nanti akan ada translator, jadi nanti biasa saja, tidak apa-apa, tidak perlu harus takut, canggung, dan bertanya silakan pakai bahasa Indonesia saja. Dan nanti di sesi presentasi nanti kita menyimak dulu kan, dan nanti akan dipandu oleh Ibu Yeni. Sepertinya waktunya sudah beranjak menuju ke sesi kepembukaan. Sekiranya nanti sudah siap, bisa dimulai ya Bu Lina untuk pembukaan.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih Bu Maya. Bu Sabatina, apakah sudah siap untuk membuka acara?
Tapi mohon maaf nih suaranya kecil ya.
Iya, agak kecil. Mohon teman-teman yang tidak bertugas untuk jangan lupa untuk mute ya, unmute speakernya karena nanti akan mengganggu yang lain gitu. Terima kasih.
Ya.
Bu Sabah, apakah sudah bersiap? Mohon dites lagi ulang. Oke Bu Maya, ini saya punya pantun ya. Kalau nanti Dokter Zen memakai bahasa internasional bahasa Inggris, saya tak mencoba pakai bahasa Jawa. Saya akan menyapa teman-teman yang tadi belum bergabung. Nih, madep mantep ing ati minangka kawula. Memetri unggah-ungguh kanthi alusing budi. Katur salam saking kula. Kagem sedaya sederek pejuang Himpaudi. Mana teman-teman ini? Ayo saling bersambut sambil menunggu Bu Sabatina.
Sekarang suaranya gimana Bu kalau pakai HP ini?
Bu Maya gimana Bu Maya untuk Bu Sabah? Sudah terdengar bagus?
Jelas pakai HP atau pakai yang tadi?
Oke. Sudah terdengar.
Sudah terdengar.
Iya. Monggo silakan Bu Sabatina untuk segera bisa dimulai pembukaan. Terima kasih Bu Lina, luar biasa pantunnya. Bu Yeni, Sugeng Rawuh bergabung Bu Yeni.
Terima kasih Bu Yani sudah bergabung. Untuk acara selanjutnya kami serahkan ke Bu Sabatina untuk melaksanakan pembukaan di siang hari ini. Terima kasih.
Halo. Saya terdengar.
Sudah.
Sambung.
Berarti saya pakai HP saja ya?
Iya, oke.
Bisa Bu. Jernih kok suaranya.
Oh iya. Terima kasih.
Silakan Bu Sabah.
Terima kasih Bu Maya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan.
Namo Buddhaya, salam.
Perkenankan saya Sabatina Rukmi Widiasi, membawakan acara pembukaan webinar Team Building and Leadership Program Pengabdian Masyarakat Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta bekerjasama dengan Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta Sabtu 19 Maret 2022. Yang terhormat Bapak Dr. Andes Eko Sumardi MPD, Kepala BP PAUD dan Dikmas Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dr. Takdir Ali Mukti, MSI, Dekan Visipol Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Yang saya hormati Dr. Zen Rafiq, National University of Modern Language, Islamabad, Pakistan. Yang saya hormati pula Ibu Zamzami Uluyanti Darojat SAG, Ketua Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Yang saya hormati Ibu Dr. Zeni Rosilawati, SIP SEMM, Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Serta Bapak Ibu seluruh pengurus wilayah, pengurus daerah kabupaten kota, dan pengurus cabang Kapanewon, Kemantren, se-Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta, pejuang PAUD yang saya banggakan. Alhamdulillah, Birabbil Alamin, puji syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Pemurah, sehingga kita diberikan kesehatan dan kesempatan mengikuti webinar Team Building and Leadership dengan berbahagia. Untuk mengawali kegiatan webinar Team Building dan Leadership, Program Pengabdian Masyarakat Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta bekerjasama dengan Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta, marilah kita satukan hati, memanjatkan doa bersama sesuai agama dan kepercayaan masing-masing. Berdoa, disilahkan. Berdoa selesai. Semoga kegiatan webinar ini berjalan lancar dan memberikan manfaat bagi kita semua. Amin, Allahumma amin. Selanjutnya, menyanyikan lagu Kebangsaan Indonesia Raya dan Mars Himpaudi. Para peserta mengikuti dengan hikmat. Kepada yang bertugas atau operator disilakan.
Indonesia, kebangsaan
Terima kasih. Acara berikutnya sambutan. Sambutan yang pertama dari Dekan Fakultas Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta kepada Bapak Dr. Takdir Ali Mukti MSI. Disilakan.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Sabatina. Tadi hostnya masih menge-mute saya nggak bisa masuk.
Ya Pak, mohon maaf.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Amma ba'd. Yang sangat saya hormati Bapak Eko Sumarti selaku pembina ya, dari PAUD di Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta ini. Ya. Yang saya hormati ibu-ibu, yang ini kayaknya yang rawuh banyak Bu Sabatina, nggih? Ratusan ini.
332.
332 banyak sekali. Nah, ini saya online yang mayoritas ibu-ibu ya baru kali ini. Tadi saya diajak Bu Yeni, biasanya mayoritasnya bukan ibu-ibu, ini ibu-ibu. Tentu saja saya akan ngomong rileks-rileks saja. Nah, karena kebetulan saya termasuk orang yang sangat memperhatikan pentingnya pembinaan PAUD itu. Saya ingat ada penelitian dari Profesor Siman Hadi Widya Perkosa. Beliau ini profesor ahli pendidikan tahun 2000-an itu punya kesimpulan bahwa pembinaan PAUD TK sampai dengan SD kelas 3 itu kesimpulan beliau itu yang paling tepat diserahkan kepada ibu-ibu. Dan saya lihat jarang sekali bapak-bapak yang di PAUD. Ya, ini termasuk alhamdulillah itu. Jadi sesuai dengan penelitian itu paling tepat. Karena kedekatan antara anak-anak usia dini dengan ibunya atau mamanya. Dan itu menjadi penting bagi kita semua karena ibu adalah sekolahan madrasah yang pertama dalam kehidupan ini. Sehingga PAUD dengan ibu-ibu itu sesuatu yang sangat tepat sekali, baik secara intelektual tadi disampaikan oleh Profesor Siman Hadi, maupun secara religius bahwa ibu memang sekolahan yang pertama. Bapak dan ibu-ibu yang sangat saya hormati, ada satu hal yang harus menjadi perhatian kita, tidak hanya di pendidikan dasar, tapi juga bagi kita yang berada di sekolahan, yaitu bagaimana kita berbicara dengan generasi yang berbeda generasi ini. Jadi ada istilahnya generation gap, yaitu gap generasi antara yang mengajar dengan yang diajar. Yang mengajar itu tentu saja kalau seusia saya, Bu Zeni, itu kenal gadget itu kan tahun 2000-an. Tetapi anak-anak yang sekarang PAUD itu kenal gadget sejak dalam kandungan. Jadi ini ada bukan generasi milenial lagi mereka ini, tetapi sudah generasi alpha atau beta. Jadi mereka adalah generasi yang memang punya genetik digital. Jadi mereka itu sudah genetik digital. Jadi istilahnya itu apa ya, macam gen digital. Jadi yang memiliki kekhasan, kecenderungan untuk tidak takut untuk diperingatkan, lebih lebih merdeka cara dia mengekspresikan sesuatu gitu. Sehingga ini yang menjadi tantangan kita, sehingga kita bisa menjadi pengantar yang baik bagi generasi kita yang akan datang. Dan ini tentu saja kita harus sering sharing. Jadi kesempatan seperti ini sangat berharga bagi kita karena jarang sekali ada abdi mas atau bahkan yang mengisi luar negeri. Kalau tadi Bu Maya cerita ini seminarnya internasional loh, gitu kan. Pembicaranya dari Pakistan ya. Yaitu ya welcome Dr.
Zain.
Dr. Zain, Dr. Zain. Ya.
Selamat siang, Prof.
Oi.
Apa kabar?
Speak Indonesia.
Sedikit-sedikit.
Okay, welcome. I hope you can share your highly intellectual contribution in this forum. So can enrich our knowledge and enlarge our vision so we can boost our education in the very elementary education. So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Dan kepada ibu-ibu semuanya, saya harap ini kesempatan langka dan saya berharap sekali kita bisa mengoptimalkan diskusi kita, jadi nanti bebas saja untuk berdiskusi, gitu, supaya kita lebih bisa bagaimana istilahnya itu membimbing, not only knowledge but also etik kepada generasi kita yang mau tidak mau akan mengganti kepemimpinan di tengah masyarakat kita ini. Terima kasih, tidak bijaksana kalau saya terlalu panjang. Nah, dan saya kira sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih. Semoga sukses acaranya Bu Yeni, Bu Maya, dan seluruh ibu-ibu yang terlibat pada kegiatan ini. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Iya Bapak, terima kasih Bapak. Peserta memang 300 yang ada di akun, cuman bersama-sama satu kelompok pengurus kepanewon ataupun kementerian, demikian Bapak. Jadi lebih dari yang di akun. Selanjutnya sambutan dari Kepala BP PAUD dan Dikmas Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta sekaligus membuka kegiatan webinar Team Building and Leadership siang ini. Kepada Bapak Dr. Andes Eko Sumardi MPD, disilakan.
Terima kasih pembawa acara. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dekan Visipol UMY, Bapak Dr. Takdir Ali Mukti MSI. Terima kasih Pak sudah bekerja sama dengan Himpaudi, di mana tadi kita sama-sama untuk mendampingi dan sekaligus melakukan pembinaan dengan teman-teman di Himpaudi, ya, pasukan-pasukan kami Pak, dalam rangka mencerdaskan anak-anak kita di usia dini. Kemudian yang saya hormati narasumber Dr. Zain Rafiq, dari National University Modern Language Islamabad, Pakistan. Thank you, Dr. Zain.
Thank you, sir.
Kemudian dari hanya satu nih ya narasumbernya ya. Terima kasih, ini single ini Dr. Zain. Bapak Ibu sekalian, mari yang pertama kita selalu panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa yang sudah memberikan kita semua kenikmatan, terutama nikmat sehat, sehingga pada sore hari ini kita bisa silaturahmi, kumpul bersama dalam rangka webinar ya, webinar dengan tema Team Building and Leadership. Ya. Bapak Ibu sekalian, bahwa ini dua hal, Team Building and Leadership ini merupakan dua hal yang memang menurut saya sendiri ini adalah kunci dari keberhasilan sebuah lembaga, ya, sebuah satuan, ya, ataupun sebuah institusi. Kalau mereka ingin maju, ingin berkembang, nah inilah dua kunci inilah harus dikuasai. Bagaimana leadership dan bagaimana membangun tim building yang baik. Jadi tema pada sore hari ini memang tema yang menurut saya ini luar biasa ya, luar biasa. Sehingga apa? Program sekolah penggerak. Nah, sekarang ini kan kementerian kita baru menggalakkan program sekolah penggerak. Program sekolah penggerak ini yang diseleksi bukan satuannya, tetapi bagaimana kiprah leadership dari pimpinan, dari kepalanya, ya, kepala satuan itu. Nah, sehingga ini diharapkan dengan leadership yang baik, mereka bisa apa ya, bisa melakukan sesuatu terobosan-terobosan, tidak tergantung dari sarana prasarana, SDM dan lain sebagainya. Jadi ini harapannya. Jadi sekali lagi ini merupakan tema yang sangat baik sekali. Kami berharap nanti Bapak Ibu sekalian, teman-teman kami dari Himpaudi, baik itu provinsi, kabupaten, kota, maupun Bapak Ibu sekalian yang ada di satuan, ini benar-benar bisa memahami, ya, tidak hanya memahami saja, tapi tahu bagaimana leadership itu dan bagaimana membangun tim building, ya, tim building yang solid dalam rangka untuk menghidupkan satuan kita. Jadi tahu, memahami, kemudian kita nanti akan bersikap, ya, setelah bersikap diharapkan nanti untuk melakukan, ya, action, ya. Jangan sampai nanti webinar ini hanya sekedar mendapatkan sertifikat, ya, pemahaman saja, yang nanti ilmu-ilmu yang akan diberikan oleh Dr. Zain, ya, tapi kami berharap nanti dilakukan di satuan-satuan kita, ya, di satuan-satuan kita. Jadi sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih pada Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi, ya, yang sudah bekerja sama dengan teman-teman kami dari Himpaudi, Bu Ulwi, ya, Bu Ulwi, terima kasih Bu Ulwi, ini sudah membangun kemitraan, ya, membangun kemitraan tidak hanya dari praktisi, ya, ini dari akademisi, sehingga kami berharap nanti dengan kemitraan ini Himpaudi akan lebih jaya, ya, Himpaudi akan lebih membumi, dan Himpaudi akan lebih bermanfaat buat satuan-satuan kita. Saya kira itu dari saya. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada Himpaudi wilayah daerah Yogyakarta dan khususon untuk UMJ, ya, sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih untuk UMJ yang sudah membantu kami bersama-sama dalam rangka mengedukasi teman-teman kami, ya, dari baik itu kepala sekolah, tutor maupun organisasi, sehingga dalam rangka melayani anak-anak kita yang tadi katakan adalah anak-anak yang usia emas, ya, ini benar-benar bisa berjalan dengan baik dan sesuai dengan cita-cita pemerintahan kita, Republik kita. Terima kasih. Saya akhiri, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat mengikuti webinar.
Sekalian membuka Bapak Nyun Sewu.
Oh, nggih. Terima kasih. Ini tadi atas permintaan panitia dan seizin Bapak Ibu sekalian, ya, Bapak Dekan, ya, kemudian narasumber dan seluruh yang ada di Zoom meeting ini, dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, kegiatan webinar dengan tema Team Building and Leadership dengan resmi saya nyatakan dimulai. Terima kasih. Saya akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak. Demikian rangkaian acara pembukaan webinar Team Building and Leadership Program Pengabdian Masyarakat Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta kerjasama dengan Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Untuk keperluan dokumentasi, mohon semua peserta untuk mengaktifkan kamera. Kepada yang bertugas, operator dipersilahkan memandu sesi foto bersama. Sampai slide berapa ya?
Ya, sampun Bu sepertinya.
Oh iya, sudah semua nih. Terima kasih. Terima kasih saya aturkan kepada para tamu undangan. Saya selaku pembawa acara, menutup acara pembukaan webinar siang ini. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selanjutnya, sebelum acara saya serahkan kepada moderator, perkenankan saya bacakan kurikulum vitae beliau. Mohon maaf bisa dibantu slide-nya ya. Saya lupa nggak bisa menampilkan slide. Kurikulum vitae Bu Dr. Zeni.
Mungkin singkat saja Bu, nanti dari Prodi Ilmu Komunikasi kemauan nanti supaya tidak terlalu lama.
Oh iya.
Halo? Baik, supaya tidak terlalu lama, mungkin mohon maaf kami take over, nggih, Bu Sabatina, nggih.
Iya Bu, iya Bu.
Ya,
Silakan. Mohon maaf ya.
Ya. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang terhormat Bapak Eko Sumardi dan juga Ibu Zanzawi, kemudian juga Ibu Maya dan semua jajaran pengurus Himpaudi. Selamat siang dan salam sehat Ibu-ibu dan Bapak-bapak semua. Alhamdulillah hari ini kita bisa bertemu di webinar series ya. Ini untuk yang kedua kali. Jadi minggu lalu kita sudah menyelenggarakan webinar pertama. Kemudian hari ini kita selenggarakan untuk yang kedua, yaitu dengan judul Team Building and Leadership dengan pembicara Dr. Zain Rafiq dari Islamabad. Baik, sebelumnya saya akan menyapa Dr. Zain dulu. Hello, Dr. Zain.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, before we start, I would like to read your short CV. Ya, jadi kita akan membacakan dulu short CV dari Dr. Zain. Dr. Zain adalah dosen di National University of Modern Language di Islamabad, Pakistan dari tahun 2017. Kemudian untuk pendidikannya, beliau menempuh di Forman Christian College University of FCCU Lahore. Kemudian melanjutkan di PhD ya, S3 di University Sains of Malaysia dan lulus pada tahun 2018. Kemudian penelitian beliau adalah mengenai local governance dan participatory development. Jadi beliau ini adalah ahli public policy atau kebijakan publik. Kemudian juga concern pada public governance, citizen participation, dan civic engagement. Dan Dr. Zain ini juga merupakan researcher ya, dan banyak menulis hasil penelitiannya di dalam bentuk paper baik paper di jurnal internasional maupun di buku juga. Oke, kita bisa mulai sekarang ya, ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak supaya tidak terlalu siang. So, Dr. Zain, how are you? Is everything all right from your side?
Yes. How are you?
Yeah. Okay, so today we would like to discuss about the team buildings and leadership. So this session will consist of two forms. Yeah, you can present your PPT approximately about 30 until 40 minutes. Then will be followed by a question and answer from the participants. And you can see here the participants already reached 368 participants we have, yeah. So I think it's a big number. So, okay. Are you ready, Dr. Zain, to start your presentation? Time will be yours.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof. Can you see this PPT?
Yeah, we can see it clearly here.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, selamat siang, and a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Dr. Zain, as I'm working as Assistant Professor of Governance and Public Policy at National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. Apart from that, currently I am working with United Nations Development Program to train young leaders and politicians for the betterment of the society. Mm-hmm. I'd like to thank you, Professor Dr. Taqdeer Ali, Dean of Social and Political Studies, University Muhammadi Yogyakarta. Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me. I'll also like to thank and pay my regards to Mr. Eko Sumardi, Head of BPPAUD, and I will also like to thank Mrs. Zamzami, Chairperson of Himpaudi Yogyakarta. Apart from that, I'll also like to thank Professor Yeni Rozilavati for inviting me to give a talk on leadership and team development. So today I will talk about three main things. the first part of my study will cover about the early childhood education and the importance of leadership and team building in early leadership and in early childhood education. And the second part of my talk would be confined to the leadership and why the leadership is very important for the elementary teachers and how the leadership and team building can contribute towards a good working environment and also the development of child. And the third part of my talk would be confining to the how you can work with difficult people. That is very important as we are living in a very complex socio-political reality, as we, Indonesia and Pakistan, both are developing countries. So if I start about the early education of the children, so most of the studies, they have this consensus that the quality of early education that a child gets is almost the building block of his personality. So the main important thing for a child development is early education providers. They are the most important resource of any country. I'm talking about the education service provider before the Montessori, like most of you are. So for early education provider, he must have intensive personal, social, and emotional skills to deal with the children. So unless you are trained emotionally, spiritually, abstractly, you cannot engage the children because they are very little to understand with the words. So what we can do is you must understand that every child always every child is a unique child. Every child is a unique child. You must understand this. And you have to build the positive relationship through the skills of leadership and the team building you have. And you have to give the children an enabling environment. When you will provide this, they would actually end up in a good learning and development stage. So these are things which are very important. As you know that babies and very young children, they actually get the nutrition is one part and nurture is another part which the early education providers are giving them. And care is also provided by the family and educational experts. So the baby's brain and body that grows and develop well if he is given a positive environment and he is given in a very environment that is full of positivity. So these children, these are being endorsed by so many studies that these children becomes the quick learners and they think the people and the world around them are safe and which actually help them to grow, develop, and learn actually. So babies and young children, so their brains and bodies will be flooded with the traumas, fears, and stress hormones if they are in the negative environment. So these children who are not given the positive environment and an environment of team building and leadership, they will have the sense of danger. They will have the sense of fear, and which actually hinder their development. And when they will go to school, they will go to the college and they will go to the university. And in their practical life, their capacity will always be meager. and undermined. So it is very, very important for the children's capacity to grow and learn, to have those early education providers who are very good team builders, who are very good leaders, and who are building a positive environment around them so that children are facing safer and children are very confident. So it will help them to be develop, grow, and learn. So what is your role as an education provider? What you would have to do? So before moving towards my main topic, I will just advise you to be very sensitive to children's needs. And you must understand they are at the stage of development where they will ask so many questions. They will curious about many things. So you have to plan your intervention in a way that will accelerate children's learning. So you have to identify barriers to learning or gaps in their development. You have to ensure that you have some clear rules and routines through which you can help the children to understand. You have to ensure that your feedback is very positive. You have to ensure that they are actually improving by the time. I am just telling you on the basis of the thousands of different studies which have this evidence that the most important phase of a children's life is their early education, before the Montessori. Look at this. This is Essex Country Councils for a better quality of life. You can see the trunk is the prime areas, but actually the specific areas, the secondary areas, and the prime areas that belong to how the child is growing, that is based on the enabling environment, and the enabling environment actually motivate them to be a very strong tree. If they don't have a good soul, they don't have a good ingredients, they don't have the ability to think creatively, they don't have the ability of active learning, they don't have the ability of communication, they will never turn into a responsible, active, participatory citizen. So you can understand how important your role is in the development of a child. So if you need a rich learning environment, you have to support the children's interests. You have to investigate, inquire, explore, and be curious. And you have to challenge your children to be motivated. Unless you don't do this, when they will go to their school, they will go to their college, that particular DNA will always affect them. So you can understand in building a nation how important your role is. Okay, so this was about the importance of you as the teacher to the students. You are actually playing the main role. You are actually the building block of a child's growth. I'll move towards the leadership. Before moving towards the leadership, I will just want you just think about a leader which has the most positive influence in your life. Just think how that leader contributed in your life. Just try to remember 3 words, how this person contributed to your life. This same question was asked the Gallup survey asked to 10,000 people in US, and then they shouted out 4 words. And these words were, the people say a leader is a one on which people trust, and they correlated with honesty, integrity, and respect. So if you want to be a leader, the first thing you have to keep in your mind is people should trust you. People should trust your honesty. People should respect you. People must have integrity on you. People should believe that you have an integrity person. The second person is compassion. They must think that you are a compassionate person. You are a caring person. You will give them happiness when they will be with you. And you will have to be compassionate. And the third thing is the stability. Every leader should have stability. He must have strength, he must have support, and he must have peace. And the fourth is the hope. A leader always gives hope to his pupil. He always gives hope to the children. You must keep this thing. And you know, in the 21st century, the workforce has totally changed. And in past, we used to say my paychecks, and you say, no, my purpose. In the past, you used to say my role, and you now say my development. My weakness had turned into your strengths, and leaders are turned into the coaches, and the annual reviews are turned into ongoing conversations, and jobs are turned into the life, because you spend most of the time in your workplace. So what actually the definition of the leadership is? The leadership is an act of building a community of colleagues to set a direction and achieve common purposes through the empowerment of others. So you can understand that leadership and team building, they both are interrelated and coherent with each other. So I just want to make you think about the leadership styles. You just think about your leaders and then understand which leadership styles they are applying. And then I'll tell you if they are good leaders or otherwise. I will just take the grounded work of the Kurt Lewin, who actually defined and differentiated the 3 classical leadership styles. The first style is the authoritarian style, and the second style of leadership is laissez-faire, and the third style of leadership is the democratic. The authoritarian leadership style is the style that gives the clear instructions about how the things should be done, and the leader actually making the independent decisions without asking the team members. And the decision making is always less creative, and the leader thinks that he is all and all. The second style of leadership is the laissez-faire. It doesn't provide any guidance to team members. Leader doesn't give any guidance to the team leaders, and the decision making lies with the team. Whatever the team decides, they actually believe in that. The leader believe in that. But the main issue in this type of leadership style is that team members may be confused about their roles. And to do this, the team members has to be highly motivated to do if they are not motivated to do their work, they will just get rid of the work. And the third style is the democratic leadership. This is considered as the most effective style of leadership, in which the leader gives team members their input and also takes the input from the team member and encourages every team member to be accountable and participate. So the team members are more motivated. They can find the solution of the problems, and they can be very creative because they are accountable. So if we do the comparisons of leadership styles, these are 3 leadership styles. In the first style, your leader just say, do this, and the members do this without asking anything. And in the second laissez-faire style, the leader says, do X and Y, and you would say whatever the fit is. So there is no input from the leader. And the third and most effective style is leader asks them, what is best? What is your point of view? And what is my point of view? Is discussed, and the shared decision making is made with the leader. So you can understand that these three leadership styles, which one is best suited for your school? That is the democratic leader. I will just stop there, and I will move towards the team leadership, and then we'll try to correlate this with the team leadership and team building and leadership. But I will just want to quote this idiom of Rockefeller. He says, I will pay more for the ability to deal with the people than for any ability under the sun. So a good leader, according to Rockefeller, is the most important person in any organization. So what actually the team is? The team for you is your department, and every member of your department or community is your team. So a group of people which are working together for a common goal and a common vision, they are the team. And the team leader is for you, whoever the head of department of your school, and whoever the head teacher is your school is your team leader. But if you will work in team, there are certain advantages of work in team. If you will work in team, so you have a wider range of ideas. If you will work in team, you would have talents and skills, a great array. If you work in teams, you can learn new skills from your colleagues. If you are a team, you will be more efficient than individual working singly. If you are a team, you will provide more relief to each other. So the team workers are always more effective. And there are some disadvantages of teams as well. The team decision maker can take longer because there are so many people who are deciding on things. It can waste your time. It can gain momentum in the wrong direction. It can bog down the interpersonal issues and resentments. These are some of the disadvantages. So should you build teams? Should you do a team building? No. I will just ask you, but I want to clear something. So what makes a good team? So you don't have to start with a very super people. You must believe that every group has a very strong leader. So you must choose a leader who is very strong and who loves talent and who knows where to find it. So there is a wise saying that if a leader is lion and the whole nation is foxes, he will make the whole nation lions. Okay, but actually what I need you to do is to bring a dynamic team in your school. A dynamic team is always very high performing. It is always interdependent, and it is always very confident. So when you are building a team, you must keep this thing in your mind, that a dynamic team must have its mission and goals very clearly. It must operate very creatively. It should focus on results. It must clarify roles and responsibilities. It must be well organized, and it have this ability to resolve disagreements. And it must have the ability to evaluate its own effectiveness. If they are working effectively, what changes do they need? So this is the importance of. So the first step you can take to build your team is the drive. In the drive step, what you can do is you can map out a mission statement of your team, and you can define what the team you are designing would do. How would it change the life of your students? What change it will bring to the life of the students? What positivity will it bring to the life of the students? And secondly, it will team goals and priorities. Set your team goals and priorities, like in next 2 months, in next 5 months, what changes you can bring to the students. And for that, you must have the clear guidelines. Unless you don't have guidelines, you cannot find your way. And the second step is striving. Unless you don't have the ability to strive, you don't want to excel, you will never able to be a dynamic team. I assure you, so you have to clarify whole members their responsibilities, and you have to set the realistic goals. You need not to be very, very innovative. You need not to be very, very motivated. You just have to do change, very minor and minor. Small change will turn into a big change. So you have to identify the roadblocks, what the problems you can face. And on the basis of those problems, you have to come up with the action plans and problem solving issues. So the second step after the drive, you have to strive. In the drive, you will have to design your mission statements. In the strive, you will have to make a clear, realistic goals which are achievable. If they are not achievable in the stipulated time, you need not to do it. Unless you don't have realistic goal, how can you achieve that? And the third step is the thrive. Thrive means when you are working in a team, you have to take feedback of each other, even from an independent person. You need to know, and you must be committed how you can solve the conflicts among each other, and how you can work collaboratively and creatively, and how you can deal with the decision making, which has empowered every member of your team. And the fourth step is the arrive. When you will do this, then you will able to achieve something. And when you achieve something, you have to celebrate your success that you achieved this. And you have to keep the track of your progress. And you have to consistently encourage the involvement of every stakeholder. And you have to revitalize the team meetings. But you don't have to stop here, because when you will stop here, then your decline will come. And before the decline comes, you will have to revive everything. When you will revive, you can actually make your goals even more better than the previous goals. You can change your destructive plan. You can restructure your department, bring more innovation to your department. Only at this point, you will add new things, which are, you have the ability to do that. If you will do this, your team will turn into a very dynamic. So when you will drive and will reach to arrive, then just to avoid your decline, you will have to revive. If you don't revive, you will actually decline. So these are some of the symptoms of poor teamwork. The poor teamwork, you just think of your own organization. If you have guarded communication, you think that letters and decisions are not reachable to you, and you have lack of disagreements. You can't disagree with the decision of the higher authority, and you have very ineffective team meetings, and you don't have realistic goals, and there is a competition which is very unhealthy competition, and there is a lot of backbiting, and no one trusts another in your school, then you think you must establish this thing that the teamwork in your school is very poor and you cannot actually progress. And at the end of the day, that will impact the environment of the children in which he is studying, environment of the children in which he is living. That negative environment will actually ruin his life as established by the thousands of different studies. So you must keep this thing in your mind. What actually you are doing just to satisfy your own vested interest, you are actually undermining and challenging the life of your students who will in their whole life will suffer because of this. So these are few points you have to ponder on. So these are the different roles in the team. If I talk about the positive enhancing roles, so these are the positive enhancing roles. That means a team worker is always a knowledge contributor. He always a process observer. He will observe. He will be a positive challenger. He will be a listener. He will be a mediator and gatekeeper. But the team impeding rules are counselor, pessimists. They will always think negative. They will only talk about the issues of the people, only talk about the flaws of the people. They will be a naysayer. They will always bring something negativity in the department, and they will always try to be very dominant. So if you have these persons in your team, try to get rid of them unless you would be. For that, I will try to discuss the OK curve with you. Before that, I will do a transactional analysis to understand the behavior of yourself and to understand the behavior of your leader and to understand the behavior of your the seniors. You can do this transaction analysis which we applied. This transactional analysis will actually tell you how you can understand a human behavior if you are working in a team, and you can, from this behavior, you actually can understand what actually is happening around you. So to understand a transactional analysis, there are 3 different egos in a human body. The first one is called as the parental ego, and the second one is called as the adult ego, and the third one is the child ego. So the parental ego is the language of values, and the adult is the language of logic and rationality, and child is the language of emotions. You have to understand this, that parents, they actually represents the language of values, and the adults represents the language of logic and rationality, and the child actually they are the language of emotions. So an effective functioning in the world depends on the availability of all 3 intact ego states. So if the child ego is more dominant, it will turn into a trouble. If the parental ego is dominant, it will turn into a trouble. And if the child ego is dominant, it will travel into a trouble. So if I talk about the parental ego, what are the parent types? You just have to be understood. If you think your leader is prejudiced, he will lack facts and logic. If he is nurturing, you think he's always sympathetic and he's very caring, and he's critical, he's fault finding, condescending. So he has a parental ego which is disturbing the leadership, which is disturbing the officers. If we talk about the child egos, they represent all these impulses, feelings that is nature to a child and often referred to as the emotional part of us. So what they can be, a child is always impulsive, self-centered, angry, player-loving, fearful, happy, rebellious, sad, and aggressive. So if you think your leader and a member of your team have these traits, his child ego is dominating him or her. So we have to work accordingly. And the adult ego is that deals objectively with the reality, who sees the reality with a single objective, and that is about getting the information, that is about the testing the reality. So what you have to do is, a good leader is always the one who is able to see things as they are without any emotional attachment. And so when he will see things how they are without any emotional attachment, he will actually averse the child ego. And if he sees the thing with the prejudice of our parent, if that thing is okay, then it will actually give him or her to power to make decisions on the basis of reality, on the basis of reality. But if he has some child egos that is related to emotional, and if he has some parental ego that is emotional to the prejudice, he will not able to decide in the favor of the institution. So what about the adult ego? Adult ego is fine to some extent, but if that is called as the computer part of us, which actually we have in our, but if it doesn't develop well, your ego will always portray these things. If you have an adult ego, very dominant, you will always be a money lover. You will always try to be earning money through different means. You will always want it to be very rich. So that is also not a very good thing, sign. So what I already told you, that you have to see, you can self-analyze yourself always. You can self-analyze your leader. And through this transaction analysis, you can actually have an analysis that at where you as a leader, and at where you as a team member, and at where you as a human stands. So where do you need to work? You have to look at these things. So if you will have all these egos very dominantly, it will contaminate your working environment, because prejudice, beliefs, perceived notions, they will actually contaminate your ability to think logically. So for that, this is the keep in view these transactional analysis, and these are the okay curl. You can have these. These are some of the examples. Think about your working environment. The first is, I am okay and you are also okay in your team. That if you think like that, okay, I am also okay and you are also okay, it will always feel good about your own performance, and the whole team will be doing very well. And these characteristics which it will bring, that you accepting everyone, it will bring collaboration, it will bring the constructive disagreements, it will bring confidence, and it will also refuse to put down others. But if you have this, I am okay, but you are not okay, this actually will bring the bossy attitude. So it will bring superiority. You will feel superior than your team member. You will feel competitive than your team member. And whatever the cost is, the other persons will feel hostile. They can feel harassment. They can feel victimization, because you think you are okay, but the other person is not okay. And the third is, I am not okay, you are okay. I am not going good, but the other person is going good. It will bring the feel of powerlessness. It will bring the feel of inadequacy, and it will bring the feel of withdrawal. So it will undermine your own skills. It will undermine your own abilities. And the fourth one is, if I am not okay and he's also not okay, so if this condition is being run in the department, then this will be a big mess, because no one is caring about anything. No one is bothering, because you think you are not fine and the other person is not fine. You are not competent and the other person is also not competent. It is the most terrible thing which a department can face. So you have to bring this. How can you overcome these things? The first and main thing is appreciation. According to the US Department of Labor, the 46% of the people who quit their job, only they think out of the total 46% people who quit their job, they thought that they feel unappreciated. So if the person is trying, you have to appreciate him as a leader or as a team member. So you have to do this. And how you can overcome some of the problems, the first thing is the denial. The first thing is a denial. If you don't see a problem, that doesn't mean your department is not facing that problem. So you have to work on the denial. You have to accept what others are saying. You will have to be very interactive if you want to be a good leader or you want to be a good team builder. You have to see if the other people is seeing some problems. There could be some problem. If you are not seeing, that doesn't mean that the problem does not lie there. And the second thing is blind spots and shortcuts. So that doesn't mean if you don't like something, that doesn't mean that is very important. You must keep this thing in your mind. So you have to respect other person's argument also. If you think that the other person is very is talking something that you think you that is not important, so you don't think like that. You have to see if the other person is talking something that could be significant. You have to be listen to him. So you have the progress is always together. You cannot progress if you don't have a team. And if you just have self-interest and you always look at your self-interest and you always look out, you want to be number one, then the team and leadership does not exist. That's the only thing that exists is your self-interest. And the third and the fourth thing is the mind reading. People should know what I want without being told. So people must know from your gestures that what is going on. And the last one is the blame. This is very important. If something goes wrong, it doesn't mean that it's somebody's fault. If you're working in team, that is the team fault. Don't blame each other. Don't blame each other. And you have to be always nice to avoid conflicts at all costs. And you don't have to believe in the perfection. You can just start from with the okay work. If it's not perfect, it's nothing. You don't have to believe in this. If you are actually progressing, it will actually help you to progress. But if you are just saying that you will do something which is perfect, you will end up in doing nothing. So as a teacher, you will always have a good excuse and good reasons that you as a human, we always are full of excuses. You don't follow that work, you don't follow that rules because you have different excuses, you have personal, social, economic issues. So don't find excuses if you want to, two wrongs doesn't make one right. And being right doesn't mean that is not wrong. So there is a right way and a wrong way. And my way is always right. Don't think like that. You have to discuss with the people. So 5 plus 4 makes 9 and 6 plus 3 also makes 9. So that doesn't mean if you are right and the other person is not right. because 5 plus 4 is 9 and 6 plus 3 is also 9. So you have to think. I will also advise you to work on emotional quotients and spiritual quotients. That is not part of this study, but if you want to be a strong leader, you must have to take the trainings on emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence and emotional quotient and spiritual quotient. Only then you can be a good leader, because that is the current lexicon of this century and the current fashion of this century. A good leader is the one who is spiritually strong and emotionally strong. So if a manager says, I did it, a new manager, when will come, he will say, I did it. An experienced manager will say, we did it. But a leader will always say, you did it. You just have to keep this thing. So what are the leadership skills you will be needing? So these are the few leadership skills you have to develop in yourself if you want to be a leader. The first and the most important thing is the building of your rapport. If you build the trust and your members are trusting on yourself and they are very creative under your alliance, and they think that whenever there will be a conflict, you will be the right person to bring them at the normal, then you have built your rapport. So to build your rapport, if you disagree with them, give them the reasons and then say you disagree. You have to create an alliance, you have to create a group and the people who believe in you, who believe in your abilities, who believe in your conflict management techniques. You have to be an active listener. There are so many nonverbal signs, like you have to smile, you make a good eye contact, you always show them attentive posture, mirroring, no distractions. These are the nonverbal signs. With your behavior and with your posture, you are telling them about the active listening. And the verbal signs are, you always remember what they say. You are always have clarification, questioning, reflection, and summarization of the things. Okay, so you have to be a good leader. You have to always be questioning your members, to obtain information, to test their knowledge, to determine difficulties, to encourage them. Don't tell them, just tell them with your own. Okay, and the other thing is you have to provide feedback. So provide the feedback to them. You have to be as specific as possible. Give them a proper feedback, not a general feedback. General feedback never helps. And give them timely feedback so that they can improve, describe the impact of the issue, and not address behavior, not personality. Don't tell them that you are a bad person and you don't do good work. Just tell about the work they have done and try to give them feedback. And show that if your feedback is a gift for them, it will improve them. And you have, a leader is always very tactful and diplomatic. He always a good listener. He listens first and then speaks. If you just speak and then listen, that is not a good approach. You just have to listen to your members and then speak. And only then you can establish your rapport. You have to be very polite. You have to be very respectful. And you have to be very assertive. Only then you can be a good. And a good team leader always see different perspectives. He always see different perspectives. He has a knowledge, experience, and background drive of people's perspective. He doesn't see the things with a single angle. He sees with the different angles. He believes in the multiple realities. He believes in the multiple truths, because your truth can be different from my truth. So he's never judgmental. He is never judgmental. He will always be a rational. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to be a rational, not judgmental, because most of the leaders are judgmental and they are not rational. They judge the things, but they don't analyze the thing. And you have to make your team members accountable. And it's very simple. There is a simple formula you can apply. Simple S means you can set expectations. I means you can invite commitments, and you can measure their progress, and then you can provide feedback, and you can measure progress and feedback and then link it to their consequences and then evaluate their effectiveness. If you are able to do this, you are going to be a very good team. Okay, so how you can build a good team? You have to start with the best people you can find. And you think you are working in a school, you say, you understand what are the people you have the congruence with, you have affiliation with, your mentality match with them, and keep this thing. You must have people with the diversity of backgrounds and perspectives. If you will choose the members which are just from one strata of life, so that is going to be very difficult for you to become a good team. And you have to find some people with a good sense of humor. That is very essential. So keeping in view all the dynamic tools I told you in the dynamic team, how to develop a dynamic team, I have jot down there. You can help from this. So these are the key points which you can, but this is how you can actually become a leader. This is how you can become a team member. And this is how you can build a relationship between the team and leadership. But this is a big problem in the developing countries, to work with the difficult people. If your leader you think is a very difficult person and is a very problematic, and you are actually feeling issues with them, then you must start with the conflict management. If I ask you, when you start think about the conflict with your leader, what are the first word that comes to your mind? Just first word, 2 words, synonyms, that you just think about that. So this is the conflicting model which actually can help you to avoid the conflicts. And that ends up in the compromises on a certain ground. I just explained this. You just fill it out. I just ask you to think about that. Your primary conflict style is, your backup conflict style is. You just write that when you have conflict, you try to do these things. And what are the secondary things you do? And then keep this thing in your mind and just fill in. If you avoid a person, if you accommodate person, if you try to collaborate that person, if you try to compete with that person, if you are very assertive, and if you are very cooperative, just keep this thing. Your every conflict that we have just run between these lines. If you have some issues, you try to avoid him, you try to accommodate him, you try to compete with him, you try to collaborate with him. And whatever now you can do is you can discuss the advantages of each conflict style. What will happen if you will avoid that person? What will happen if you accommodate that person? What will happen if you will compete with that person? What will happen if you compromise that person? And what will happen if you will try to collaborate with that person? So what you can do is, this is the perfect apology. This is the perfect apology tool which you can apply. Just an example is, you can acknowledge your mistake if you are on the wrong side. You can accept your responsibility. You can express your regret. And you can provide assurance that wouldn't be repeated, and time it well. If it is timed well, the perfect apology will always work. If it's not timed well, the perfect apology will not work. And the other thing these are the few things you will have not to compromise. Don't bargain our position. Always separate the people from the problem. Just look at the problem which are they facing, and then separate the people from them. If you are correlating the problem with the people, you can never able to get a very healthy working environment and keep this thing in your environment. A meager environment in your school will affect the life of the children. And in a children development, the most important part is from their birth to Montessori. This is the most important part of the children's development. And if you are bringing all these things that will negatively environment will affect your children's development. You have to focus on interest. Just focus on interest. How it can help to generate a positive environment. And try to invent different options. Look for the different options. And always use objective criteria. When you are solving some problems, you have to be very objective. If you are objective, then you can solve. If you are subjective, there are so many issues and you won't be able to solve anymore. So what are tips for working with difficult people? The first is never react. Never react. The step 2 is disarm them. Go to their side. Step 3 is change the game. Don't reject, but reframe. And step 4 is make it easy to say yes. Build them a golden bridge. And step 5 is make it hard to say no. I'll just explain. The first one is go to the balcony and just avoid that person and just keep your eyes on the prize, what you will get at the end, and buy some time to think. Don't get mad, don't get even, get what you want. Just focus on the end results, not focus what the person is saying to you. And you have to listen very actively, acknowledge the point, agree where you can, try to agree, acknowledge the person, express your views without provoking. Because when we are just trying to express our views, we become very, very vocal. We try to demean other person. But if we will respectfully give a point, that will actually help. That will actually help them to understand. So create a favorable climate for negotiations. If you will do this, this will actually can help you. Okay. The next thing is don't reject, just reframe that. Don't reject and reframe that. If they are, you can change the scenario. You just can change the scenario by talking. Just ask why not, what if. These are the 3 questions when you will ask, you can reframe the problem. And ask for your colleagues' advice. Ask them, what do you think? What should we do? Then ask, why should we do this? And why we should not do this? And what if we do this, what will happen? When you will do this, there will be, and always involve your colleagues. Satisfy unmet interests. Help your opponent save face. Go slow to go fast. Slowly and steadily, you can win the race. So if you have inclusive mind, if you can satisfy your unmet interests, then it will help you. And always try to bring people to their senses, not to their knees. Ask your colleagues, if this happens, what will be the consequences? Try to diffuse the reaction. Keep sharpening your colleagues' choice. When you will talk again, then you can bring to a mutual satisfaction. If it's not victory, you can reach to a mutual satisfaction in which you both can be agreed to something. And these are some of the leader survival skills I want to tell you. Always communicate in all directions. Never communicate in one direction. Just tell them it's not about you. It's about the kids you are serving. It's about them. It's about the country. It's about the whole nation. And always try to enhance your leadership skills. Always try to learn more and more. And try to hallucinate. See the vision vertically and horizontally. Try to think holistically and know yourself. Enlarge your arena. You have to improve yourself and keep this thing in your mind. We are alone in this hall. If you want to be a good leader, if you want to be a good team member, you will have to take a start. If you don't take a start, no one will take start for you. And it's you who have to decide where do you see yourself in the next 2 years, 5 years. And if you want to do contributely to your nation. And as a teacher, what I see is what you can contribute at your level is the most needed thing for any nation, because that is already established. Look at the examples of Israel. They start nurturing their child when their women are pregnant. They start telling them, they start making their mind. When a lady is pregnant, she starts reading philosophy. She starts doing mathematics. She starts listening to classical music. So they focus more in the early stages and look at the human development they produce, look at the human resource they produce. So at the end of the day, at the end of my talk, I just can say, you are the most important person as an early education providers in a nation's building. So you have to start by yourself. No one else will start for you. Thank you so much. And any questions, I am happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rafiq, for your delightful presentation. Then the next session will be followed by a question and answer. Monggo, silahkan sesi selanjutnya adalah tanya jawab. Bisa Bapak dan Ibu menuliskan di chat box atau langsung dengan bahasa Indonesia, tidak apa-apa, nanti kami mencoba untuk translate. Monggo, silahkan. Tadi ya mungkin saya bisa mensarikan ya sedikit dari apa yang sudah diberikan oleh Dr. Zain Rafiq tadi. Beliau di awal tadi mengatakan atau menjelaskan mengenai pentingnya pendidikan di usia dini ya, atau early childhood education, bahwa tingginya kualitas pendidikan usia dini ini akan sangat mempengaruhi prestasi seorang anak gitu ya, baik itu di sekolahan maupun di kehidupan selanjutnya, baik itu nanti dia akan di karir dan lain sebagainya ya. Kemudian juga beliau mengatakan bahwa every child itu unik ya, every child itu unik, jadi setiap anak itu unik ya, sehingga kita perlu ya untuk memperhatikan kebutuhan dari mereka ya, termasuk intensive personal ya, social and emotional support. Kemudian Dr. Zain juga menjelaskan ya tentang pentingnya team building ya. Jadi apa karakteristik gitu ya dari tim yang efektif. Yang pertama adalah clearly states its mission and goals. Jadi tujuan, visi dan misinya jelas ya di dalam tim tersebut ya, atau tim yang kita bentuk. Kemudian juga fokus in result ya, kita harus fokus pada hasil kita. Kemudian clarifies roles and responsibility. Jadi harus jelas peran kita dan tanggung jawab kita dalam tim itu apa, peran dari masing-masing kita, gitu ya. Kemudian juga builds up on individual strength. Jadi kita harus menyumbangkan kontribusi yang terbaik, ya, keahlian yang terbaik dari yang kita miliki itu apa. Kemudian support leadership and each other. Jadi harus mensupport kepemimpinan serta juga resolve disagreement. Nah, kalau terjadi perselisihan ya kita harus bisa untuk mengelola konflik. Kemudian yang penting juga communicates, ya, komunikasi yang kita sudah bahas juga ya minggu lalu, bagaimana pentingnya ya komunikasi di dalam grup, ya, di dalam organisasi. Kemudian mampu untuk evaluate its own effectiveness. Jadi kita mampu untuk mengelola dan mengevaluasi apa yang sudah kita lakukan, ya. Kemudian di akhir tadi adalah Dr. Zen menjelaskan mengenai bagaimana jika kita bekerja dengan orang yang sulit, ya, difficult person. Nah, itu ada beberapa strategi yang beliau katakan tadi, ya. Antara lain misalnya memisahkan, ya, antara orang dengan masalah, misalnya itu salah satu strategi, ya. Oke, baik, ini ada Bunda Irma dari Prambanan, kemudian dia juga ada Bu Yohana. Monggo silahkan akan menyampaikan langsung. Silahkan Bunda Irma.
Yes, thank you. Try to speak in English, ya, Miss.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, Mr. Zain, thank you. So interesting what you're talking about. I have one question. How about is there any tips and trick for the leader of the team if they have a uncomfortable moment in the team? So how what will the leader do if there is an uncomfortable moment in your teams? Is there any tips or tricks to the leader? Okay, thank you. That is my questions.
If there is maybe she said about the tips and tricks. How about if the comfortable atmosphere, yeah, occur in organizations, Dr. Zen? Baik, would you like to answer these questions directly, Dr. Zen, now?
Yes, why not?
Meanwhile, we are waiting for other.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What the different studies suggest, when you are feeling a very uncomfortable situation, the first thing which you have to do is build the trust. You have to build the trust among the team members, and the team members should trust on you. You have to build the trust again, the first thing. And the second thing is you must think ahead of them. You can't be a leader if you don't think ahead of them. If you are thinking in the same pattern, the way you're thinking, you won't be able to manage the conflict. And the third thing which you can do is try to yield the information. When you will try to yield the information, that will actually help you to find out where actually the problem lies. And when you will do this, you will find out the main reason where the problem lies. And the fourth and the main thing is you have to trust your guts. You have to trust that you can solve this matter. The matter is in your hand and you have to solve this. And the last and the most important and significant thing is you have to start mentoring them. You have to start mentoring the problem creators. You have to tell them it's not about you and it's not about for the other members, but this all achieving and these all achievable objectives will actually help all of us. So start mentoring them. These are the few suggestions which you can take when you have some problems. First, what you have to do is you have to build trust, and you can do that by lead by the example. And yet you have to always think ahead, and you have to actually know the reason, and you have to yield the information, and you have to trust your guts, and you have to start mentoring them immediately and tell them that is for the common good. You as a leader have to tell them that at the end of the day it will benefit everyone. Thank you. Hope I gave an answer to your question.
Baik, bisa dipahami, Mbak? Dr. Zen menjelaskan pemimpin untuk bisa dia bekerja sama dengan salah satu yang dikatakan oleh Dr. Zen. Kemudian juga fokus pada problem, bukan yang kita fokuskan untuk kita selesaikan, ya, bukan kepada orang, ya. Jadi kadang kita banyak menyalahkan keadaan, banyak menyalahkan orang lain, ya. Nah, di sini menurut beliau ada baiknya kita adalah fokus pada persoalan yang dihadapi oleh tim tersebut. Baik, sebelum Bu Erlina tadi sudah ada yang raise hand, ya, sepertinya, ya. Siapa nih? Saya tadi, atau Bu Erlina dulu, monggo. Kemudian Bu Mariana, kemudian Mas Herdi, ya. Monggo, Bu Erlina.
Ya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang saya tanyakan adalah,
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, apabila kita mempunyai pemimpin yang mempunyai gaya kepemimpinan laissez-faire, di mana dia seharusnya sudah mempercayakan.
Kurang keras, ya?
Kurang keras, ya, maaf.
Iya, agak kurang jelas.
Bentar.
Laissez-faire, ya?
Ya, laissez-faire.
Ya.
Dia seharusnya tidak mengintervensi kepada bawahannya ketika suatu pekerjaan sudah didelegasikan kepada bawahan atau anggotanya. Nah, yang ingin saya tanyakan adalah ketika pemimpin tersebut ternyata masih mempunyai intervensi walaupun hanya sekian persennya kepada anggota atau bawahannya. Bagaimanakah sikap kita dalam suatu organisasi atau lembaga khususnya menghadapi pemimpin yang seperti itu? Yang kedua adalah masih bisakah gaya kepemimpinan seperti ini diterapkan dalam suatu organisasi? Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, terima kasih. Mungkin langsung saja supaya tidak lupa, ya. Dr. Zen, there is a question about the laissez-faire style. Is it still I mean, it still can be applied, yeah, in the modern organization or in our team. And how about yeah, in laissez-faire style, which is explain about the leaders is not interfere in the is not interfere so much, yeah, in the team. But how if the leaders still interfere in that sense, yeah? So how can you explain about this?
Yes, the laissez-faire leadership style in developed country and in developing country that is being run, but you know, you will commonly find this style usually in a very creative settings where there are these are very creative settings, you know, and advertising agencies usually use this, and startups use, and the organizations which actually encourage independent thinking. And but if you apply this style in some organizations which are actually not very creative, then it will end up in a big disaster actually, because you don't have a guideline, proper guidelines and proper because in laissez-faire style, the leader is not involved in day-to-day work. He just gives some guidelines and you start working on those guidelines creatively. But if the team is not very creative and team is traditional, so they don't have proper guidelines, you know, and they are not actually creative. So what they will do, they will end up in a disaster. And if you say that there is some laissez-faire leadership, but the leader is actually taking part, then that doesn't actually become the laissez-faire leadership. That is more of a democratic leadership. It moves towards that leadership. So, but this laissez-faire leadership style is very distinctive. You know, it actually effectively delegate work, but if it only happens when you have a very high level of trust among your members, you know, and when you give them space and you have a very big picture in your mind as part for day-to-day affairs. But only it will be successful only when you have a very creative and very intelligent and very motivated team. Otherwise, it won't work. Usually, this style of working is in creative organizations regarding to innovation, advertising agencies, and fresh startup. This kind of style you can see in those organizations. Thank you.
Ya, untuk Bu Erlina, Dr. Zen menjelaskan bahwa laissez-faire ini model ini lebih cocok ya ketika kita untuk industri atau organisasi tertentu yang sangat highly kreatif gitu ya, seperti misalnya advertising agency atau mungkin startup di mana ya bawahan itu bisa memang leader hanya mengarahkan gitu ya, dia hanya memberikan guidance secara umum, adapun pelaksanaan kemudian pekerjaan itu sudah dilakukan tentunya dengan trust yang sangat tinggi ya di antara mereka. Jadi ibaratnya dia sudah bisa dilepas gitu tanpa harus ada jauh dari pemimpin gitu, seperti itu. Jadi sebetulnya model ini lebih cocok gitu ya untuk dia sangat distinktif ya, sangat berbeda gitu ya dengan model, agak berbeda dengan model yang lain gitu ya, dengan authoritarian ataupun demokratik. Jadi ini bisa diterapkan ya asal anak buah kita, tim kita memang sudah siap gitu. Tapi kalau tidak siap ya nanti malah jadinya tidak efektif seperti itu, dan lebih cocok ketika diterapkan di certain industry atau certain organizations ya, seperti advertising agency atau mungkin perusahaan-perusahaan startup ya digital yang sekarang ini sedang marak gitu. Jadi di mana kreativitas individu ya, kreativitas tim itu memang betul-betul dihargai secara penuh. Begitu Bu Erlina penjelasan dari Dr. Zen. Mungkin ada yang masih ditanyakan Bu Erlina? Baik, kalau tidak ada Bu Lina ya. Monggo, Bu Lina.
Ya, Bu Yani. Ya, baik Bu Yani, terima kasih atas waktunya, atas kesempatannya di siang hari ini. Begini Bu Yani, kalau kita kaitkan dengan lembaga ya, kalau guru guru-guru di TK itu kan jangkanya ketika mengajar lama ya, hampir 1 sampai 5 tahun sampai 10 tahun, bahkan ada yang sudah sampai 30 tahun, itu tetap dalam satu lembaga gitu. Kalau kita lihat gitu, akhirnya ketika sudah 5 tahun ke atas, itu banyak konflik-konflik yang terjadi, dan akhirnya saling ngegeng gitu, yang sesrek sama hatinya, sama ini, sama itu. Dan akhirnya membuat suatu lembaga itu tidak lagi kompak gitu. Jadi mungkin ada trik-trik khusus karena tadi ada pembahasan bagaimana menghadapi ini working with difficult people gitu. Jadi gimana di sini ada step 1, 2, and 3. Mungkin ada penjelasan bagaimana mengantisipasi agar jangka lamanya bekerja itu tidak mengurangi efektivitas untuk solid dalam grup gitu. Terima kasih Bu Yani.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih Bu Mariana. Ini bagus sekali ya pertanyaannya ya. Dr. Zen, I think it's a good question from Miss Lina. She asked about, however, sometimes in organizations, the members are, separated into groups, yeah, or gangs, yeah, which is if I like him or her, yeah, in terms we have a similarity in some characteristics. So how to overcome these situations? Meanwhile, we also have to collaborate, yeah, as organizations, as a unit. So do you have any suggestion for this?
Thank you so much. It's a very good question. But unless you will discuss people, you will not able to find out the solution. If you will discuss personalities, if you will discuss your problems with the person, then you will not able to find a solution and you will have a grouping. The main, how you can overcome this situation is you first have to define what actually the problem you are facing. First step, instead of discussing problem with the person, you start define what actually the problem is. First, identify the problems which are actually bringing you to such nudge that you are, have separated into 2 or more groups. First, jot down those problems. And the second thing is come together and communicate. You can sit together and actually communicate these are the problems which you are actually facing, and then try to establish a relationship with them. And then develop an action plan together, how these problems can be solved, and then gain commitment. You give your commitment and ask them to give their commitment, and you reach to some conclusion that you will try to find out the problem of this which we are facing through this issue, and at the end of this you do your part and they do their part, but give the feedback to each other, provide feedback to each other. This is a 6 steps model to resolve the conflicts. If you will discuss people and not the problems, you will not be able to find the solution. So if you want to find the solution, you first have to define the problem and then come together and develop a framework to solve that, and then give your commitment that you will not do this and they will not do this, and then give them feedback and take their feedback. Only then you can solve the issue. Otherwise, if you will discuss people, you will not able to solve. Thank you.
Dr. Zen. Jadi menurut Dr. Zen, kalau kita berfokus pada orang, ya, if we are focused to people, so we can solve this problem. Jadi memang sebaiknya kita dalam hal ini, maka kita harus kita harus mengidentifikasi ya sebetulnya masalah kita itu ada di mana, what actually the problem we are facing. Jadi kita fokus pada masalah bukan kepada orang, karena kalau kita mencari perbedaan itu tidak akan pernah ada yang sama gitu ya, seperti itu menurut Dr. Zen. Kemudian identify the problem, sit together and communicate. Jadi meskipun itu ya ada sedikit perbedaan mungkin di antara kita ya, tapi kita juga harus mengutamakan kepentingan organisasi itu yang lebih besar. So we have tried to sit together and communicate. Kemudian mencoba establish the relationship. Nah, kalau kita bicara tentang strategi komunikasi ya, kita pun ada strategi komunikasi untuk tiap orang dan bisa jadi itu unik dan berbeda seperti itu. Nah, kita juga harus mengetahui ya karakter dari masing-masing lawan bicara kita atau siapa yang kita, bagaimana teman kita. Nah, tentunya kita bisa lebih mengetahui. Ibaratnya kalau orang Jawa bilang slahnya gitu ya. Kemudian try to make commitment. Ya, kita tetap harus profesional, kita tetap harus membuat komitmen. Seperti itu Ibu Lina, penjelasan dari Dr. Zen. Bisa, atau mungkin masih ingin ada yang ditanyakan? Ya, tadi ada lagi pertanyaan ya, Bu Gatri ya, dari Depok. Monggo silahkan. Lalu ada satu lagi tadi siapa ya? Saya... Monggo Bu Gatri.
Iya, halo. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. Dari Depok mau menanyakan kapan anak usia dini dinyatakan siap untuk diajarkan tentang pemahaman leadership?
Agak kurang jelas ya.
Oke.
Mohon maaf, agak kurang.
Iya. Halo.
Halo, J.
Iya.
Bagaimana anak usia dini?
Iya, kapan anak usia dini dinyatakan siap untuk diajarkan tentang pemahaman leadership?
Oke.
Nah, untuk yang pertanyaan kedua, model leadership seperti apa yang bisa diterapkan pada atau diajarkan pada anak usia dini? Begitu. Terima kasih.
Oke. Ya, terima kasih Bu Gatri. I think it's also good questions from Miss Gatri. She asked about how we can teach about leadership to the early childhood, yeah, and then what kind of leadership or what is the models or the examples of leadership that we can teach to them. Okay, thank you Dr. Zen. Ada satu lagi tadi, ada 3 orang ya. Oh, ada Mbak Utari, lalu Mas Hirdi ya. Mas atau Mbak ini ya? Oke, setelah ini Mbak Utari dan Mas Hirdi ya, atau Bu Hirdi ya.
Thank you so much. Should I answer?
Yeah, you can answer.
Dr. Yani, we are talking about the children before Montessori. Is that?
Yeah, the early childhood when we should teach them about leadership and
in
early
child. There are so many modules. We have so many modules which we can apply to give the children a sense of leadership. But in early childhood, you can't teach them about the leadership. The most inspiring methods which is used by the educationer is reflective practice. You do the reflective practice, so that when you do, you try to make them learn by the examples, by the examples around them so they can see those person, and that is a complete module of reflective leadership, and you can influence them by exercising, by giving some exercise, by giving them some by showing, because at this stage the child is a very quick learner, so in the community, by have a strong, clear vision, be assertive where necessary, and you have some time management, and tell them about the new things, start doing new things daily and daily, simultaneously think about the goal attainments through very small things. There are certain modules I can share with them through which they, but you can't teach them. It's usually most of the leadership skills which are inculcated, they are through the reflective practice. When you show them a certain thing, they will just try to follow those things, and they can turn into an alpha child,
Oke. Ya, penjelasan dari Dr. Zen bahwa sebetulnya banyak yang bisa kita lakukan ya untuk mendidik anak leadership di usia dini. Tadi dikatakan ada banyak modul, ada banyak contoh yang bisa diadopsi atau dilakukan. Di antaranya ada reflektif. Jadi memang menurut Dr. Zen, you mean that the parents are the role models for the examples you talk about. You talk about this, Doctor. Is it that the parents
yes.
is the
Not only parents, the community, the teachers, the family, you have to build, you have to teach them to build respectable and genuine connections with them, and you have to develop a culture of ethical inquiry. You can't tell them, but you have to develop a culture that comes under the umbrella of reflective practice. So tell about their rights, their honors, their diversity in a very positive, constructive, courageous way, which you can't tell them. You can only this can be depicted through your actions, and they are very quick learners. They will quick learn like anything.
Ya, jadi Dr. Zen menjelaskan bahwa lingkungan berperan ya untuk membentuk karakter atau membentuk atau memberikan contoh ya leadership pada anak ya, dan anak itu dikatakan oleh Dr. Zen adalah the quick learner ya, dia akan mengcopy, dia contoh dari apa yang dilakukan oleh lingkungannya. Nah, Dr. Zen mencontohkan misalnya aspek-aspek seperti time management ya, itu juga hal yang bisa dikenalkan untuk anak usia dini. Kemudian be assertive ya, kemudian what else, Doctor? Time management and be assertive. Then what is the elements there?
You have to teach them, respectful and genuine connections with the communities and families around them, a culture of ethical inquiry, you can collaboratively develop. You can't teach them. You have to develop. You have to be ethical. You have,
Okay. Yeah, about ethics, about how to respect.
Not by telling them this is good, this is bad. You can tell them by your actions, they will just follow. They are so quick learners. Even if they are in, their mother's lap, they are the ethics, the development, the leadership qualities they will pick. This has been established by the studies.
Iya, oke. Jadi begitu Bu Gatri ya, bahwa anak itu adalah the quick learner Jadi apapun yang lingkungan lakukan gitu ya, itu akan direspon dan akan ditiru secara cepat. Jadi tadi dikatakan bahwa kalau tadi ingin menanamkan leadership, nilai-nilai leadership itu bisa kita tanamkan melalui bagaimana kita memberikan contoh ya, bagaimana kita berperilaku itu akan dicontoh oleh mereka seperti itu. Baik, selanjutnya Bu Utari ya. Monggo silakan Bu Utari, kemudian Mas Herdi ya. Bu Utari ini Bu Ari bukan ya? Iya. Mbak Utari ya? Ya, monggo Mbak Utari.
Thank you. Thank you, Mbak Yeni. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you here. I would like to ask Mr. Zain Rafiq. It's about to face difficult people. Just now we have heard Ms. Lina questions dealing with the people on her team. Yeah, but my question is about ourselves. It's like, could you please, Mr. Zain, give us a kind of secret ingredients, how to train ourselves? Probably you have a special action or exercise or practice to do before we meet the difficult people, or probably what we can do early in the morning to start the day. Could you please share us your experience so we can also improve ourselves? Thank you, Mr. Zain. Thank you, Mbak Yeni.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I already told but I didn't cover that thing. So there are so many trainings regarding emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, which are related to spiritual quotient and emotional quotient, where you can actually train yourself. So there are so many training modules. You can actually adopt those training modules. I have written in the PPT, you can explore about them. They will actually, I can explain a bit, there are 3 IQs we have. One is intelligent quotient, and the second one is the emotional quotient, and the third one is the spiritual quotient, So emotional intelligence or emotional quotient that deals with your self-awareness, empathy, motivation, self-regulation, and social skills, which you can actually inculcate in yourself, which through different trainings, through different modules, and which actually help you to overcome the difficult situations. So through these emotional intelligence techniques and emotional quotient techniques, you can actually overcome to face difficult situations. And on the other hand, the spiritual intelligence or the spiritual quotient actually can help you with your spiritual intelligence, with the what are the issues with your brain, it can actually ease your brain. The training regarding spiritual quotient can help you to develop humility. It can help you to develop the ability to completely reframe yourself, and you can also get some holism, to take help from spirituality, and you can be a very spontaneous person in a way that you will have a vision and value-headed person, and you will have the positive energy in you, and you have all these, you can develop all these abilities through spiritual intelligence trainings, in the spiritual intelligence trainings, from zikr to yoga, to different exercises. We have all these modules. You can actually search on YouTube and try to locate those some trainings for you regarding spiritual intelligence that will actually cover your spiritual side, you know, and the emotional intelligence will cover your emotional sides and try to make you a very you know, composed person. So we actually have to take these trainings if you are feeling difficulty in your workplace and you think you are emotionally not stable and you are spiritually not stable, then I will recommend you to go for these trainings.
Saya kira sudah cukup jelas Mbak Utari ya, atau masih ada yang ingin ditanyakan? Ya, intinya bagaimana kita mengimprove ya, atau mengembangkan kecerdasan ya, baik kecerdasan emosional ya, kecerdasan spiritual ya, emotional questions, spiritual questions ya, instead of our IQ. Jadi IQ tetap penting, tetapi bagaimana dalam kehidupan sehari-hari, ya tadi dikatakan pengelolaan emosi, emosional itu menjadi sangat penting. Beliau katakan seperti itu. Nah, nanti di dalam EQ biasanya akan ada tesnya Mbak Utari. Kita bisa menguji diri kita sendiri, jangan-jangan kita adalah orang yang sulit gitu ya, berdasarkan skor itu. Ya, jadi kadang kita mengasumsikan orang lain sulit, padahal sebetulnya diri kita yang sulit gitu. Nah, ini kan bisa jadi ya seperti itu kan. Nah, untuk itu kita bisa nyoba nanti di skornya ya, di tes itu tes yang sudah ada nanti di situ ya, biasa tes online. Nanti kita bisa lihat skor kita berapa. Baik, untuk menyingkat waktu mungkin Mas Herdi, kemudian kemudian Rantiati dan Bu Asendang. Monggo silakan Mas Herdi. Bu Herdi ya. Monggo.
Mas. Oke, terima kasih waktunya.
Monggo.
Ya, terima kasih waktunya. Langsung aja ya Bu. Saya hanya ingin bertanya, bagaimana jika pemimpin tidak punya jiwa kepemimpinan, sementara yang dipimpin cenderung pasif, hanya menunggu dan tidak punya inisiatif. Apa yang harus dilakukan? Oke, terima kasih.
Doctor, there is a question from Mr. Hardy. He asked about how about if our leaders don't have any sense of leadership, and so the members are passive, and so what they have to do if we face the situation like this? If there is no initiative from the leaders.
If I got your question correctly, it's a very time-taking process. It take if you compare yourself with the European democracy, or if you compare yourself with American democracy, or if you compare yourself with Britain democracy, they actually evolved. They have evolved through different centuries, many centuries they evolved, and now they have come to a point where, even then we have so many issues, but there are some mature democracies. Unfortunately, our political history, that is the democratic history, is not very, it's not very long. So it will take time when the political process would go on. Unfortunately, the political process, is hindered due to the martial laws and dictatorships. So if this political leadership process will evolve, with the passage of time, we would have some good leaders, we would have some good leaders. And what I have deduced from the history of the world which I have read, if you talk about the Europe in the Dark Ages, they were the worst leaders, and even no one was allowed to, talk like that, So, and same goes with the USA. They have evolved through, they have taken their rights with the passage of time. They have evolved themselves, like, now the China is also in the transitionary phase. So what I have suggestion is, let the democratic process move on, and with the, maybe we won't be able to see the good leaders, but yes, our children are their children. They would actually a time will come when the countries will get mature, and we might have good leaders. For now, this is like that. The process will go on, and every 4 years, 5 years, we have the new leaders. Some are coming, some are going down, and when this process goes on, maybe in next 30, 40 years, we have a good mirage of leaders. If we talk the vicious circle of leadership, political leadership, they says that the third generation, the third generation of democratic, if I believe that Indonesia is 70, 75 years old, so maybe in next 60, 70 years, Indonesia would be mature enough to have so many democratically elected leaders.
Yeah. In this context, in this our organization's context, can we take the initiatives? I mean, if we face the condition like this, if my leader is very weak and she or he don't know what to do, what they will do, what they should do. So is it okay if we are taking initiative, we are taking assertive to help the organizations as a whole? Yeah. So is it what is about your opinion about this? Yeah, if we are facing our team. Yeah.
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof. If I was talking about the country, at country level, because the question was in the national level, but at the organizational level, the country. If it's in the organizational level, if it's at the organizational level, to some extent you can bear that person if he's not a charismatic leader, or if he is not an able person. You can only bear, because organizations are all monetary based organizations. If the person is not able enough, he will not survive for the longer time. But if he is surviving, that means you are the team behind him is actually augmenting him. There is no other reasons. They are all one. They are augmenting him, because this all is. Prof, this is about the conflicts between different groups, and one group is dominant, which is actually which might be not in the favor of the organization. But if that is dominating, you have that would be working. So all you can do is take your do your best, because there is a rule of invisibility. If you will do your work, and if you do your work independently and with your moral courage, and you meet your requirements, at the end of the day, it will actually favor the organization.
Ya, jadi menurut Dr. Zen ya, kalau dalam konteks politik ya, ke konteks negara, memang kalau kita menghadapi situasi seperti ini, memang kita perlu waktu yang cukup lama untuk mengubah gitu ya. Seperti misalnya tadi dicontohkan demokrasi di Amerika, sampai bisa Amerika seperti ini itu butuh waktu ratusan tahun. Kemudian juga Indonesia sebagai developing countries, juga Pakistan ya, perlu waktu. Kemudian kalau tadi kita tarik ke dalam small group ya, or organizations gitu ya, kita juga bisa melakukan apa yang dikatakan oleh Dr. Zen tadi ya, do our best gitu ya. Apa yang bisa kita sumbangkan yang terbaik, itulah ya, sesuai dengan kapasitas kita, sesuai dengan peran kita ya. Menurut Dr. Zen itu adalah menjembatani atau menengahi ya, kondisi atau atmosfer yang kita hadapi tadi. Seperti misalnya inisiatif gitu. So, okay, doctor. So, yeah, so you are talking about do our best, right? Based on our capacity and our roles, yeah, and responsibility. Isn't it, ya? Baik, yang terakhir tadi mungkin Bu Asi Endang, monggo silakan. Bu Asi, monggo Bu Asi. Masih hadir? Bu Asi? Oh, sudah. Masih ada pertanyaan lagi? Ya, saya kira mungkin sudah cukup. Ini sesi tanya jawabnya atau bagaimana, Bu Maya, Bu Sabatina? Kita cukupkan? Sudah ada banyak pertanyaan tadi atau mungkin masih ada yang ditanyakan?
Kalau dari peserta sudah tidak ada, Bu.
Oh iya, dari peserta sudah tidak ada lagi. Okay, Dr. Zen, I think the QA already finished, yeah, because we have one more questions. Ada, Dok? Oh, okay. May we ask to get materials? Bu Mariam, ada pertanyaan? Any question, Bu Mariam? Mungkin satu lagi aja ya, karena sudah asar juga ini, ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak. Bu Mariam? Sudah tidak ada. Okay, I think this Q&A session has been done. Yeah, is enough, Dr. Zen. Again, thank you so much for your delightful presentation and also your delightful, beautiful answer, yeah, for the participants. Yeah. On behalf of the organizer of this community service program of UMY, I would like to thank to your contributions, yeah, over these programs, and shall this can be given added value, yeah, and a new knowledge for the all participants. Again, thank you so much for your presentation and answer. Baiklah, saya kembalikan pada Mbak Sabatina selaku MC. Monggo silakan.
Ini malah ada yang tanya barusan gimana? Ya, udah ditutup ya?
Ada pertanyaan ya. I think it's the same questions. Yeah. Almost same with previous questions. How about if we are facing the lack of the lack of leader in our organizations, doctor, because no one won't be a leaders, won't be a leaders. Lack of leaders, not lack of the leadership, but lack of leaders, because none of them want to be appointed. Thank you. If you
then you become one.
ya, katanya kalau nggak ada yang mau ya, yang tadi kita semua ini yang harus mau begitu Bu. Bu Vivi ya. Is that? Ya, semua orang, so everyone has to be ready to be a leader, doctor, or how?
Yes. Why don't you become leader? Because if you have poor leadership and lack of leadership, it actually can seriously affect your morale, and even cause the organization to plunge, to it actually also will affect your career growth, and if you don't have leaders and you have poor leadership, it will also affect the respect of employees, and if you don't have leaders, you actually don't have ability to communicate with the upper people, so if you don't have a good leader, then instead of influencing or be influenced or be influencing, you would be commanded by someone. So all you have to do is, if there are lack of leadership, so actually when there is a lack of something, on the other hand, there is also an opportunity of something. If there is lack, it means there is scarcity, and you can actually fill that gap by exploring yourself, by applying the techniques which I have told you. So if you think that you are facing some ineffective leadership, you can actually overcome. How you can assess your leader is actually incompetent or ineffective, there are a few things which you through which you can understand. First of all, a bad leader will always have a bad communication problems. He will not able he will never be a good listener, and he won't be able to make decisions. If you think your leader is not able to make decisions, and he is always looking upper hierarchy for the decisions, and he doesn't have any conflict resolutions solutions, there are so many groupings between the departments, so that means your leader is not good enough, and because the world is changing by leaps and bounds. Every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, there are new changes, and if you see your leader, he gives slow reaction to change, he can't be a good leader, and he's very comfortable with the status quo, he can't be a good leader. So these are the few things which you can analyze by looking at your leaders, and if you think he has these issues, that means he's not a good leader and actually will hamper your growth. You will learn anything.
Ya, kalau kita menghadapi situasi seperti ini, ya kita bisa, tadi menurut Dr. Zen, ya kita semua gitu ya harus siap gitu ya menjadi pemimpin. Tapi bagaimana menjadi pemimpin, ya kita bisa melihat dari atau mengevaluasi atau menilai ya dari kepemimpinan yang sudah ada saat ini dan apa kekurangannya. Misalnya tadi disebutkan ada komunikasi, lalu misalnya tidak bisa bekerja sama, dan menurut Dr. Zen gitu ya, itu yang kemudian ya kita pelajari ya, dan pada saat nanti kita menjadi seorang leader ya kita harus bisa menutup ya, apa ya, bukan menutup ya, mungkin ya kita belajar supaya kita tidak seperti itu, begitu menurut Dr. Zen. So everyone has to be ready to be leaders, dokter ya. Baik, saya kira pertanyaan terakhir bagus sekali ya, dan terima kasih atas Bapak Ibu semuanya ya yang sudah memberikan pertanyaan. Masih ada lagi? Yeah, what are the effective steps to carry out regeneration in the organizations? Maybe this is the last question, Doctor. About how about the how to prepare the regenerations or the succession in the organization. Mungkin ini pertanyaan terakhir ya dari Bu Maya ya.
You know, first of all, we have to understand what actually the meaning of regeneration is. You know, if you are talking about the regeneration of the organization, that means, you know, you are talking about replacing or restoring, you know, something completely, you know. So if you want some organization to be to regenerate, for that you must need a regenerative leadership. You know, there is a full concept. You know, there is a whole concept of regenerative leadership which can actually help, you know, to build the organization in a different way. There are so many examples of regenerative leadership. For instance, you study about the Kia, you know, the Kia from the Korea, they were about to collapse. Then what actually they did, they hired, you know, the leaders from Audi, from BMW, by giving them, you know, very hefty salaries, and they actually changed the organization. Same goes with the Hyundai, you know, they actually bring the regenerative leadership, you know. So if you want to change an organization and the DNA of the organization, it is only possible through a new regenerative leadership which has actually established themselves as the change maker. So this is the first step, you know, because if the change, you know, the quick change doesn't come from the below, you know, the bottom-up approaches are the development from below is always very, you know, sloppy, is always very slow, like turtle, you know. But if you want to change an organization, quickly change its leadership and bring the new people who have established themselves as a change maker or who have a greater vision, only then you can change an organization abruptly. Otherwise, that is a very long, lengthy process, which actually we see in our public sector organizations, you know. They are changing, but in a very turtle speed, because we don't have regenerative leadership or transformative leadership in those organizations. Thank you.
Ya, saya kira jelas ya Bu Maya ya, tadi sudah dijelaskan. Pertama kita harus mengetahui apa definisi dari suksesi atau regenerasi itu sendiri. Kemudian mempersiapkan kepemimpinan itu menjadi hal yang sangat penting. The new leadership, ya seperti tadi dicontohkan Hyundai dan lain sebagainya. Baik, saya kira itu. Terima kasih atas pertanyaannya. Thanks for all the questions for the participants, and a very good answer also from Dr. Zen. Again, thank you so much. Baiklah, waktu saya kembalikan kepada Bu Sabatina ya, selaku MC. Monggo silakan.
Ya, terima kasih ya, Dr. Zen dan Bu Yeni. Sebelum acara ditutup oleh Bu Lina Mariana, ada pengumuman door prize hari Sabtu yang lalu yang belum mempunyai nomor HP, yaitu atas nama Bu Sri Puji Lestari, Bu Sutini SPD, Bu Sumarni. Apakah ada di ruang Zoom ini? Seandainya ada, mohon menuliskan nomor WA yang masih aktif. Kemudian semua peserta yang memberikan pertanyaan pada siang ini mendapatkan door prize semua ya Bu Yeni ya?
Ya, mendapatkan.
Ya.
Oh ya, 3 penanya terbaik ya. Nanti Tadi dari siapa ya tadi ya Bu? Monggo Mbak Dea supaya cepat Mbak Dea. Siapa 3 terbaik Mbak Dea? Yang tentang apa tadi leadership di era bagaimana kapan ya mengajarkan leadership pada anak-anak usia PAUD tadi. Yang pertama Bu siapa ya tadi ya dari Depok tadi ya. Yang pertama. Kemudian yang kedua adalah tentang bagaimana menghadapi difficult people tadi sinan ya, identify the problems tadi siapa ya? Identify the problems tadi siapa ya? Itu yang nomor 2. Kemudian yang nomor 3 adalah Mbak Utari ya, Mbak Utari Dewi. Yang nomor 2 tadi yang aduh siapa tadi? Saya agak lupa ya nomor 2 tadi. Yang pertama adalah yang kapan usia dini tadi yang dari Depok ya. Kemudian yang kedua siapa Mbak Dea yang bagaimana menghadapi difficult person tadi ya. Kalau nggak salah Bu siapa ya? Udah nggak ada di sini. Oke nanti kita cari Bu.
Iya.
Saya kira itu. Ya.
Karena nanti di link peserta ada nomor WA juga ya.
Ada.
Ya. Ya, baiklah. Terima kasih Bu Yeni, door prize-nya dari Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Semoga bisa menambah semangat untuk pejuang PAUD.
Bu Lina yang kedua ya.
Oh iya.
Ya, Bu Lina. Ya, sudah ketemu.
Ya.
Terima kasih Bu Lina dan Bu Depok tadi.
Bu Yohana.
Iya, Bu. Tadi loh yang tanya kapan pendidikan usia dini itu diajarkan ke pemimpin tadi. Siapa tadi? Yeah. Oke, saya kira itu yang 3 terbaik supaya kita bisa lebih cepat ini. Sudah sore. Monggo Bu Sabatina.
Ya. Terima kasih Bu Yeni. Langsung saja Bu Lina untuk menutup acara, dipersilahkan.
Baik, terima kasih atas waktunya, Bu Sabatina. Baik, teman-teman sekalian, ini sudah menunjukkan pukul 3:31, sudah waktunya kita melakukan penutupan di sore hari ini. Terima kasih semua atas atensinya dari para laskar Himpaudi dari Sleman, Gunung Kidul, Bantul, Kulon Progo, dan Kota Yogyakarta yang masih setia sampai di sore hari ini di jumlah 243 dan tidak menutup kemungkinan satu akun dibuat untuk bersama-sama Bu Yeni ini ya. Jadi yang terlihat di sini 243 ini bisa lebih dari ini. Baik teman-teman sekalian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yang kami hormati Dr. Zen selaku pembicara di sore hari ini, kemudian Bapak Eko Sumardi, Bapak Dr. Takdir Ali Mukti MSI, kemudian Ibu Zamzami Ulwiati selaku Ketua Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Marilah bersama-sama di sore hari ini kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, di mana kita masih diberikan kesehatan untuk bisa mengikuti webinar dari siang sampai sore hari ini. Marilah acara penutupan di pagi hari ini, dari siang menjelang sore hari ini, diawali dengan membaca Bismillah bersama-sama. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Untuk acara selanjutnya, yaitu sambutan dari Ketua Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta kepada Ibu Zamzami Ulwiati dari Jat kami persilakan. Bu Ulwi. Apakah Bu Ulwi ada di ruang Zoom? Baik, Bu Ulwi sudah masuk ke ruang Zoom. Monggo kami persilahkan Bu Ulwi.
Ya, terima kasih Bu Lina. Dari tadi saya ada di Zoom, hanya saja saya tidak bisa membuka mic.
Oh, enggak. Maaf.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yang terhormat Dr. Zain Rafiq dari Pakistan. Saya mohon maaf, mungkin tidak menyebutkan secara lengkap. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dekan Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi, Ilmu Sosial atau Ilmu Komunikasi, Bu? Saya takut salah.
Sosial dan Politik, Bu. Visipol.
Visipol ya berarti, Bapak Dekan Visipol. Yang saya hormati Bapak Eko Sumardi, Kepala BP PAUD dan Dikmas. Yang saya hormati pula Ibu Yeni dan seluruh teman-teman peserta yang hadir pada hari ini. Alhamdulillah kegiatan berjalan dengan lancar, dengan baik, walaupun mungkin mundur beberapa waktu dari jadwal. Tapi tidak mengurangi khusyuknya kita semua mengikuti webinar pada siang hari ini. Yang pertama saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada Bu Yeni dan seluruh tim dari UMY, dari Visipol, dari Prodi Komunikasi yang sudah memberikan ilmu yang luar biasa, kesempatan bekerja sama ini merupakan sesuatu yang luar biasa bagi kami. Jadi kalau istilah saya itu seperti ini Bu Yeni, kami itu para pelaku, tetap yang punya semangat. Mungkin saya seperti yang saya matur dulu. Tetapi kami minim untuk ilmu. Ketika kami dirangkul oleh para akademisi yang syarat akan ilmu, namun mungkin karena keterbatasan waktu, tenaga, sehingga tidak bisa langsung terjun ke masyarakat, ini menjadikan kami kepanjangan tangan. Jadi harapannya kami yang selalu haus akan ilmu, karena kami terus bergerak. Karena gerakan yang kami lakukan tentu kami dari waktu ke waktu butuh dicas terus-menerus. Karena itu sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya, ilmu yang luar biasa dari tanggal 12 sampai hari ini. Saya menyimak walaupun kebetulan saya itu bahasa Inggrisnya bisanya yes no, sehingga antara paham dan tidak paham. Jadi yang ini saya ngerti, yang ini saya tidak, begitu. Tetapi di sini saya belajar bahwa ternyata kita menjadi seorang pemimpin itu tidak hanya memimpin orang lain, tetapi lebih dari itu memimpin yang sebenarnya adalah mari kita memulai dari memimpin diri sendiri, karena jangan sampai kita menjustifikasi orang lain adalah orang yang sulit, ternyata kita sendiri adalah orang yang sulit gitu. Karena itu, ya kan, saya jadi belajar, oh iya, kita tidak bisa menjustifikasi orang lain, jangan-jangan kita sendiri. Oleh karena itu, kami sebagai pelaku pendidikan anak usia dini, pelaku organisasinya, kami akan terus belajar. Mudah-mudahan proses kami mendidik diri kami sendiri, memimpin diri kami sendiri terlebih dahulu menjadi awal yang baik sebelum kami memimpin tim yang ada di sekolah kami, memimpin tim yang ada di dalam organisasi, baik di tingkat kecamatan, kalau di bahasa sekarang Kapanewon, Kemantren, ataupun nanti di tingkat kabupaten dan juga di wilayah daerah istimewa Yogyakarta. Karena ketika kita bisa memimpin diri sendiri, ternyata kita akan bisa memimpin pada orang lain, karena kita akan menjadi pribadi yang lebih toleran, lebih mengerti, dan kita akan bisa memahami problem orang lain. Artinya tadi kan kita juga ada bagaimana ada manajemen konflik, itu kan, karena seingat saya ketika saya belajar leadership dari waktu muda dulu, yang paling sulit dipahami adalah materi manajemen konflik. Dan hari ini itu ada. Gitu. Sesuatu yang luar biasa. Jadi terima kasih Bu Yeni, terima kasih Dr. Zain Rafiq yang hari ini memberikan ilmu yang luar biasa. Sungguh sesuatu yang tak ternilai. Karena tidak bisa dikruskan. Harapan kami Bu Yeni, kegiatan ini berkelanjutan tidak hanya untuk saat ini, karena kebutuhan kami tidak sekedar ini, tetapi ada banyak kebutuhan. Kalau Bu Yeni concern di materi komunikasi, ada banyak materi komunikasi yang harus kami pelajari, termasuk kami sebagai praktisi membangun komunikasi personal saja kadang kami juga mengalami problem. Belum lagi ketika kami membangun komunikasi dengan tim di sekolah. Kalau ini tadi kan lebih ke leadership organisasi dari yang kemarin. Bagaimana kami sebagai seorang pendidik ke anak, bagaimana kami sebagai pelaku di sekolah kepada orang tua, itu juga satu PR tersendiri, dan itu akan menjadi problem terus-menerus. Karena kalau tadi Bu Lina Mariana ada kasus kejenuhan, ada titik lelah gitu. Tapi kalau dengan orang tua, proses adaptasi orang tua yang beragam ini, bagaimana kami membangun kecerdasan komunikasi, ini sangat kami perlukan Bu Yeni. Oleh karena itu mudah-mudahan tahun mendatang dengan tema yang lebih
improve ya.
Ya, betul. Karena ini fakta yang kami hadapi gitu. Terima kasih sekali, mudah-mudahan ilmu yang kami peroleh menjadi ilmu yang bermanfaat, barokah, dan nantinya ini bisa menjadi salah satu jalan kita masuk ke surganya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Karena di dunia ini tidak akan pernah bisa sukses tanpa adanya komunikasi yang baik. Dan dengan segala kerendahan hati, saya mohon maaf apabila ada kekurangan. Bu Yeni, kemarin kami minta untuk peserta yang banyak, tapi saya mohon maaf apabila pesertanya kurang dari target kami. Tetapi saya mendapatkan beberapa kiriman foto, satu akun itu ada yang digunakan oleh 10 orang, 5 orang, 2 orang. Jadi sekali lagi terima kasih dan mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan. Mudah-mudahan Bu Yeni dan seluruh tim tidak kapok bekerja sama dengan kami. Terima kasih, mohon maaf ada kekurangannya. Terima kasih dan mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bu Ulwi diucapkan, ini mewakili seluruh teman-teman. Terima kasih Bu Ulwi yang sudah gencar ya mencari partner, memberikan kami ilmu-ilmu dari perguruan tinggi, baik dari LSM gitu. Terima kasih Bu Ulwi beserta jajarannya di Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Untuk selanjutnya menyanyikan lagu Bagimu Negeri dan himne Himpaudi, kepada yang bertugas kami persilahkan. Baik teman-teman, terima kasih. Acara demi acara sudah selesai. Marilah acara penutupan webinar dari Ilmu Komunikasi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta bersama Himpaudi Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta dengan tema Team Building and Leadership. Kita akhiri dengan membaca hamdalah bersama-sama. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Bu Yeni, apakah ada pengumuman lain?
Saya kira untuk pemenang door prize nanti kita minta listnya yang ini ya Bu, yang tadi kan 3 terbaik, kemudian yang 20 nanti nomor HP-nya dia beserta nama bisa dikirimkan kepada panitia. Nanti akan kami proses untuk pengiriman GoPay. Nah, untuk minggu lalu itu ada beberapa nama yang memang tidak ada GoPay-nya setelah kita cek. Kemudian kami ganti dengan pulsa dengan nilai yang sama. Ya, tapi ada 2 nomor tadi yang belum tahu nomor HP-nya. Jadi kami belum bisa mengirimkan sampai dengan sekarang. Atas nama Bu siapa ya tadi ya? Tadi sudah dicatat oleh MC saya kira ya. Itu sampai hari ini kami belum bisa Bu Sutini dan Bu Puji Lestari, ini ada 2 nomor yang kami belum bisa ya, dan Bu Sumarni, tapi kalau nggak salah Bu Sumarni sudah kemarin memberikan nomor ya kalau nggak salah, nanti kami cek lagi Bu ya, tinggal 2 itu ya, Bu siapa tadi, Bu Sutini dan Bu Puji Lestari yang belum memberikan nomor. Saya kira itu, dan mohon maaf kalau ada kesalahan dan kekurangan ya dari tim kami dari UMY, terutama tadi karena harus mentranslate tadi jadi agak cepat ya atau mungkin ada yang beberapa yang harus melambat karena harus dari apa yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Zen. Saya kira itu Bu Lina, terima kasih.